Welcome to the ClickFarm Modx tutorial for managing users and basic permissions. So again, recapping on the previous one, we have already gained access to the manager interface by going to our domain name /manager, typing in our username and password, and coming to the dashboard screen. So let's say we are at a corporation and we need to grant one of our other colleagues access to the manager interface so they can modify content as well. In this tutorial, we're going to cover the basic access for managers where there's only one level. So once you're granted access to the manager, you have full access to all of these components. So we will need to go to the Security tab, Manage Users, and here we can already see that my account, the trainer, is created and is set to active. Also in this grid, we can get quick access to validate user status is active or blocked, so we can modify those by double clicking on that and then just changing that option if we need to. So let's go ahead and create the new user. Let's assume our user name or colleague is Johnny Smith. We're going to go ahead and create him just a quick username of Johnny S. Type in his full name, email address, so out of these three fields that we've entered, the two that are currently required for any active user to be created are the username and email address. The full name is more of a reference point for us to quickly find users if we have a lot of users and we need to search for them later on. So after creating the username and email address, we want to make sure we set their status to active. By checking this, we're telling the system that they are an active user and can gain access to the system. So what this would allow us to do is to create user accounts. Let's say we have a temporary contractor coming on that's going to be helping us with a marketing campaign and they need to access some of the content to help tweak that. So we could actually pre-create their account prior to them arriving by not setting active and going ahead and fully creating their account. And then once they actually go through the hiring process, we could come back in and set their status to active via this direct full user manager or through the grid as previously shown. The pseudo user is usually only granted to one of the administrative accounts, which supersedes all other access and permissions. So if all the system users were to be blocked out for some reason, only the pseudo user would have access to the manager interface. As kind of a fail-safe for any broken or bad code that may be getting written against it, or a malicious attempt by an additional member of the team to block all access. Blocked would allow us to do the similar thing as active, where if a user has access and active but we want to temporarily block them for any reason, we can go ahead and check this. Also, blocked will show up checked if a user has failed to log in multiple times, whatever that threshold's been. If it's either been 3 or 5 times, it'll lock them out, and we would need to come back in here and uncheck blocked and clear out the dates prior to saving it. So after those, the other major points are setting the user passwords. So when we scroll down a little bit, we see the new password. We can have the system either email that password to us or just print it back to the screen. So on our example, I'm going to go ahead and let it show it on the screen. And we can let Modx either generate a password or we can specify that. By letting you specify, you can create simpler, user-friendly passwords to remember. Common practice would be to go ahead and let the system generate that so that you have no security risk as far as knowing another member's password. Now quickly, before we save this user, even though we've created a user, we have not told the system what to do with that user. So we need to go to the Access Permissions tab and add that user to our content or manager group. So under user groups, we want to check administrator, and roles will do super user, which allows them full access to all the content and features. So now that we have their permissions set, commonly referred to as ACL, as administrator super user, we can also validate we did enter username, email address, they are active, and we're going to go ahead and let Modx generate that password for us. So it quickly comes back screen and tells you that the account's been created with the password. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that real quick. And we get back to the user screen with the grid, and we can see that Johnny S was indeed added with the status of active. So if I log out of my trainer account and try and log back in as Johnny S, we should get access. So we can validate that yes, indeed, we did set up that user correctly and they have permissions needed to modify and access the manager interface. Again, if you do let Modx generate that password for the user and they want to modify that after they authenticate to the site, they can simply click on their username and then go to the reset password and put in their old password and type in a new one to go ahead and update that to something that they'll remember. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.